Trapped between domestic terror and supernatural dread, Azien's bid for freedom with her daughter leads them into the labyrinthine butterfly tower, where sealed doors guard vengeful spirits and every corridor whispers of past sins. Ghost Gate's butterfly tower masterfully weaves real-world trauma with chilling horror, proving that sometimes the dead are far more dangerous than the living. The woman was terrified when she rented the house. Lao Liang said something strange after lighting the cigarette. "If you have a child, can you smoke for me?" "Mom, this cigarette is not for me." The woman's name is Zhen. Because of the long-term domestic violence of a perverted husband, Xiang, she had no choice but to take her daughter Xiaoya away from home. But due to limited capital, she could only move into the butterfly building, which is cheaper to rent. She didn't know that there was an unknown secret hidden in this building. When Zhen first moved in, Lao Liang reminded her that she must think twice before deciding to move in. Lao Liang seemed to be hinting at her unintentionally. There is something that should not exist in this building. But Zhen, who lives in poverty, can't find a house cheaper than this. In her opinion, there is nothing more terrible than poverty. In the end, she decided to rent here. Lao Liang saw her so persistent and did not persuade her. Soon, Zhen began to clean up the house. After cleaning up, she was ready to go downstairs to wash her clothes. But as soon as she went out, she had a bad feeling. The dark and gloomy corridor was particularly scary. Zhen found a door locked by an iron chain at the end of the corridor. There were also a few very old copies on the door. Although it wasn't simple, she didn't think much. At this time, the washing machine suddenly shut down. Zhen walked up to check. Unknowingly, a woman, Piao, was hanging on the ceiling. Then, a black hand emerged from the washing machine. It seemed to be slowly approaching Zhen. Fortunately, a woman, Jin, appeared in time. Piao disappeared in an instant. Jin is a resident of room 808 on the 8th floor. The two introduced themselves to each other. Jin knew that Zhen had moved into the 6th floor, which was creepy and scary. She glanced at Zhen. She immediately showed an unbelievable expression. Zhen, who was confused, did not understand what Jin meant. When she was about to ask, she was suddenly interrupted by Jin's boyfriend. Then he forced Jin to go back. It seemed that he didn't want Jin to meddle in her business. At this time, Piao on the ceiling of the laundry room has been watching Zhen. When Zhen came home, she just sat down to rest. She heard a noise coming from the corridor. When she was about to open the door, she saw a light smoke in the gap. Through the cat's eye, she found that there was no sound. Zhen was very confused, so she opened the door to find out why. All she saw was the paper money with fireworks scattered in the corridor. There were also a few candles on the ground. It seemed that someone was doing a worship ceremony in the corridor. Zhen didn't want to participate in the neighbor's affairs, so she went home. At this time, her daughter Xiaoya was facing Zhen. She acted strangely and seemed to be possessed. She sat at the corner of the wall and talked to herself and played with the candles. Xiaojie, the boy, is also a resident of the Butterfly Palace. He has been seeing ghosts since he was a child. One day, when he was playing outside, a figure suddenly fell behind him. The next second, it flashed right in front of him. Xiaojie usually helps his mother with chores. This day, he was in charge of delivering water to Zhen's house. Just when he moved the water into the house, "What's wrong with you? Be careful." Then Xiaojie left in a hurry. Zhen felt a little strange. At night, Zhen dreamed that she and her daughter were killed by Qiang. When she woke up, she called the police. She didn't know that a girl was lying under their bed. At 10 o'clock in the morning, there was a cry from a meat seller. The sound suddenly spread all over the Butterfly Palace. On the other side, Xiaojie was so scared that he couldn't even breathe. "Mom, didn't we just get killed by the boss?" The next day, when Zhen took the elevator home, she felt like there was someone behind her. But when she turned around, she found that she was the only one in the elevator. The atmosphere in the elevator was getting weirder and weirder. When she reached the 6th floor, Zhen quickly went into the room. Zhen suddenly woke up from a nightmare, but the dream was too real. So she looked down and looked at the bottom of the bed. Although she didn't see anything under the bed, she noticed the mattress. The moment she lifted the mattress, she had goosebumps all over her body. Zhen immediately asked a Taoist to come and try it. But it didn't work at all, because the ghost soul hidden in this building is far more than just one. After staying for a while, Zhen finally noticed the changes in Xiaoya. She found that Xiaoya always liked to sit in the corner and talk to herself. So, she took Xiaoya back to the bedroom to sleep. When she came out, Zhen was curious and looked at the mess on the wall. She felt a little uneasy. There seemed to be a strange sound in the wall. So she wanted to find Lao Liang to check the wall together. But she didn't expect Lao Liang to be in poor health. Lately, he could only rely on his grandson, Xiao Liang. Zhen asked Xiao Liang to come to the house to help. After tearing off the wallpaper, the two were shocked. There was a strange pattern on the wall and a huge dragonfly pattern. There was also a spell on the side. At this time, the lights in the room began to flash. However, neither of them cared. They felt that the house was too old and unstable. Xiao Liang guessed that the painting on the wall was probably drawn by the child of the previous resident. So Xiao Liang painted the wall again. They didn't know that their actions would cause serious consequences. At this time, the door sealed by the chains suddenly began to shake violently. It seemed that the seal was loosening. The ghost inside wanted to escape. Although it solved the problem of the wall, Zhen still thought this building was very strange. So she came to the 8th floor to find Jin to find out about the situation of this building. However, what made her strange was that there was a seal on the door of room 808 close to the mirror. Zhen had no choice but to go back. At this time, the pattern on the other elevator suddenly fell to the ground. The elevator door also opened automatically at this moment. Zhen didn't want to go in directly. If there were no accident, there would be an accident. The elevator suddenly broke down. The lights also began to flash. After a few minutes, the elevator returned to normal. At this time, the elevator door just opened. Zhen slowly walked out. She only saw a man in a dress in the dark corridor. Zhen raised her arm curiously and wanted to say hello to him. Unexpectedly, he did the same thing as her. When Zhen approached him, he also took 2 steps forward. The other person seemed to be Zhen's shadow and did all the actions with her. Zhen finally began to feel scared, so she hurried back to the elevator and was ready to leave. Unexpectedly, the other person suddenly appeared at the door of the elevator. At this time, a duck flew behind him. Zhen couldn't care so much and hurried to the elevator to escape. Piao hurried up to stop Zhen from leaving. After a long time, Zhen woke up and found herself lying on the bed. It turned out that Xiao Liang found Zhen in a coma in the elevator, so he hurried back to the house. Zhen said that she was stuck on the 2nd floor by the elevator. But Xiao Liang was very puzzled after hearing it, because there was no 2nd floor in this building. Zhen was a little panicked. She could only claim that she may have made a mistake. After Xiao Liang left, Zhen fell asleep on the sofa again. Suddenly, a pearl rolled over the sealed door. Then the door slowly opened. A figure walked out. It turned out that you were here. No wonder I couldn't find you. In an instant, the butterfly building suddenly shook like an earthquake. The whole building became very strange. Zhen also woke up to the violent shaking. Then she found Xiaoya missing. She hurried to the corridor to look for her. She happened to meet Xiaojie pulling Xiaoya. Zhen started to accuse Xiaojie indiscriminately, but she didn't expect Xiaoya to push her away. After a while, Xiaoya's mouth turned white and she fainted. In a hurry, Zhen soon found the Taoist with Xiaoya. The Taoist told Zhen that the incense can be wrapped. He also told Zhen not to let Xiaoya run around. Then Xiao Liang sent Zhen and Xiaoya home. At the same time, Tiang was looking for his wife and daughter everywhere. It turned out that he wanted to use them to create an accident. Then he would steal a huge amount of insurance money. The next day, Xiao Liang came to Zhen's house to visit Xiaoya, and Xiaoya seemed to like Xiao Liang very much. She also gave Xiao Liang a red bracelet. At night, Qiang was still looking for Zhen. At this time, he happened to meet Xiao Liang. Qiang just wanted to find him to vent his anger. Unexpectedly, he saw the red bracelet in his hand. Qiang recognized at a glance that this was Xiaoya's, so he followed him to the butterfly palace. Qiang finally found Zhen. However, the moment Zhen saw Qiang, she was more afraid than seeing Piao. Qiang was furious and tried to take Xiaoya. Coincidentally, this is when Xiao Liang took Xiaoya home. Xiao Liang and Qiang fought. Surprisingly, Xiao Liang overpowered Qiang. That's when Xiao Liang revealed that Zhen was not Xiaoya's biological mother. She was a drug addict who had taken the child for her own reasons. Zhen, seeing things fall apart, hit Qiang while he wasn't paying attention. Then Xiao Liang brought them to his office. As they talked, Xiaoya wandered into a dark room. Zhen called out to her, only to find horrifying photos of abused children, including herself and Xiaoya. Xiao Liang's face changed. His backstory emerged. His mother was a drug addict who jumped off a building with him, but only she died. He was adopted by Xiaoya's family but suffered years of abuse, leading to psychological damage and a twisted personality. Xiao Liang had become a killer of children. Zhen tried to escape, but Xiao Liang caught her and knocked her out. He carried her to the rooftop and dumped her into a water tower filled with stones and corpses. When she opened her eyes, she saw the bodies floating around her. Meanwhile, Xiaoliang was confronted by a vision of his dead mother, blaming him for everything. Ajun, half drowned, was awakened by the corpses themselves, who started shaking the water tower. Eventually, the iron frame gave way, and the corpses and Ajun fell out. She regained consciousness and stood up. Xiaoliang was chasing Xiaoye. Ajun stepped in to protect her, but Xiaoliang knocked her down. Just then, a vision showed his mother jumping, only to reveal that he had pushed her. As the elevator door opened, Ajun appeared. Xiaoye ran toward her. Xiaoliang was sucked into the sealed room, full of the souls he had killed. Though Apiao caught him, her resentment wasn't satisfied. She also wanted to take Ajun and Xiaoye, but Ajun's will was too strong. She shielded Xiaoye and they made it to the elevator. It stalled again. Apiao demanded a trade. Give the child or die? Just then Xiaojie opened the ventilation shaft. Ajun passed Xiaoye through it. She wasn't her real mother, but she loved her deeply. Firefighters rescued them both, but Ajun remained in the butterfly tower forever. That's all the content of the film Ghost Gate's Butterfly Tower. The film is set in Taipei's Jingxin building. Thank you for watching.